Well, damn. We're about to go into World War III. Shit.
Breaking tonight, President Biden has given Ukraine permission to use U.S.-made long-range missiles to attack targets inside Russia. It's a move that some fear could escalate the war. Others say it could help Ukraine at the negotiating table eventually. Chief National Security Correspondent Jennifer Griffin has details tonight from the Pentagon.
President Biden's decision to lift restrictions on Ukraine's use of American-made long-range strike weapons known as ATACMS was spurred by the Russian decision to invite 10,000 North Korean soldiers to fight against Ukraine in Kursk in western Russia along Ukraine's border. Facing ongoing missile strikes and the possibility of losing more ground, President Zelensky applauded the long-awaited decision.
Much is being said in the media about us receiving permissions for the relevant actions. The missiles will speak for themselves. Glory to Ukraine.
The Kremlin warned the policy shift would add fuel to the fire, echoing Putin's warning in September.
This will mean that NATO countries, the United States, and the European Union are at war with Russia. And if so, we will make decisions according to the threats facing us.
ATACMS stands for Army Tactical Missile System. It is a supersonic ballistic missile that can strike targets up to 190 miles away and carries a warhead with 375 pounds of explosives. It can reach further into Russia than any other Ukrainian missile. President-elect Donald Trump's pick for National Security Advisor, Mike Waltz, said he was not briefed by the Biden administration ahead of time.
It's another step up the escalation ladder, and nobody knows where this is going. President Trump is talking grand strategy here. How do we get both sides to the table to end this war?
On Monday, several NATO allies faced what appears to be the sabotage of crucial undersea cables that connect Germany with Finland and another connecting Lithuania and Sweden. Suspected sabotage suggests this could be a Russian reaction to the U.S. and NATO allied decision to allow Ukraine to use long-range tactical weapons inside Russia, that according to a senior European diplomat.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Let 'em Bacon Podcast. I'm your host, Jesus Barone. And as you guys just saw, it is crazy. This Ukraine conflict is getting out of control. And President Biden just threw us in for a loop with approving the use of ATACMS in Russia. My man is 2 months out, and he said, you know what? Send it. And so, Ukraine sent it. According to news outlets and some Russian spokesperson, there was about 6 missiles that were launched into Russia. And well, that's pretty scary, because that just means that we're closer to World War III than we think. Do we want to be in World War III? I don't want to be in World War III. And that's a scary thought, that our administration can take such a bold move and empower Ukraine to use our Western weapons in Russia. Now, I don't know if there's something going on, if maybe it's a bargaining chip or a means to flex power a little bit and maybe get Russia to work out a deal. The other option is scarier, in my opinion, and it's a very big gamble. We're talking World War III here. Now, I served as a soldier in the U.S. Army, and I know a little bit about NATO because I served in a NATO operation as part of the K4 operation in Kosovo. And I understand how delicate of a situation it can be, especially when it comes to the rhetoric. The rhetoric behind Ukraine becoming part of NATO, or Ukraine possibly becoming part of NATO, because Russia doesn't want that. Russia does not want a NATO member at its border. That is not good for Russia in their mind, because essentially it's an enemy right at your doorstep. It's no different than if Russia said, all right, Mexico, you are part of our alliance now, and we're going to put a whole military base in Mexico, and now we're going to have soldiers right at the border of the United States and Mexico. I think that the United States would be very, very angry if Russia was to do that. In a way, that's kind of what happened with Cuba during the Cuban Missile Crisis. And what happened to Cuba? They had an embargo, and now Cuba is pretty much behind the rest of the world. So, to get back on track, this rhetoric and this whole thing that we're doing with Ukraine is very dangerous. You know, Vice President Kamala a couple years ago, with her rhetoric in support of Ukraine's aspirations to join NATO, raised a lot of eyebrows. Like, I remember that whole situation, and I remember seeing the videos. And actually, you know what? I'm gonna play right here.
And admire President Zelensky's desire to join NATO. And one of, again, the founding principles of NATO is that each country must have the ability, unimpaired, unimpeded, to determine their own future, both in terms of their form of government and, in this case, whether they desire to be a member of NATO. And I'll put that in context because the obvious is also the point, which is that, and therefore no other country can tell anyone whether they should or should not join NATO. That should be their independent choice. That is the point of sovereignty. So I respect President Zelensky's desire to be a member of NATO.
You know, those words are dangerous because these are fighting words for Russia. You know, historically, Ukraine has served as a buffer between NATO and Russia, and it's been pretty neutral. You know, by allowing Ukraine to use these weapons against Russian forces, we are really entrenching Ukraine into a conflict that we don't want to be in. You know, this war can extend further beyond the borders of Ukraine into Poland. And that's why Poland has been pushing the United States for years to put a military base in Poland. We'll pay for everything, you know, because they want to have the United States, that sense of security of the U.S. Army or the U.S. military in Poland. Because if Russia goes into Ukraine, well, the next country is Poland. And this irresponsible rhetoric for, like I just mentioned, with Kamala and her history of always saying that Ukraine's going to be part of NATO, and that rhetoric that she spread in her tweets. Actually, let me go ahead and show this up on the screen right now. That is something we don't want to have at all. And these are all very dangerous things, especially coming from a leader. A person in leadership should be careful about what they say and what they do, because the outcome can affect a whole country. The result can be nuclear war that could very well come to our doorstep here in the United States. You know, we live in this false sense of security that nothing can happen to us because historically no one's come here to our country and attacked us. However, the possibilities of that happening are very real. We have a southern border that's not protected. We've had a southern border that has had an influx of people coming in. And who knows how many of those people could have been Russian military members or Iranian military members. We had a lot of military-aged men coming to our southern border. And who knows what kind of, you know, invaders or potential soldiers we already have within our country.
You know, just like you reported and what Bill reported, what you're seeing right behind me, this is military-age single adult males, mostly single adult males. We just had about 8 Syrian nationals come across. There's people from all over, you know, the world showing up here, right here in Lisbon.
Because if we start fighting this war where now we've allowed Ukraine to use weapons, or Western weapons, in Russia, who's not to say that these other foreign countries, such as Russia, Iran, China, North Korea, don't activate the people that they sent into our country? Who's not to say that they don't already have operations going on in our country to see how our power grid is laid out, to see how our infrastructure is laid out, to see what military bases are vulnerable to attack? These are all things that we don't take into consideration. Yes, we allowed Ukraine to use our weapons in hopes to maybe it's going to be a bargaining chip, maybe we want people to come to the table and say, all right, this is getting crazy. Let's just calm down and make a peace treaty. But the alternative, World War III, with insider attacks from people that may have come into our country through the border, is a real possibility also. Now, I have my body armor here, as you guys can see. I have weapons. I have a safe over there with, AR-15s, AK-47s, and I have enough rounds to maybe last me for a little bit. But I do not want to be in a war. I don't know about you, but I do not want to be in a war. Now, I'm hoping that with President Trump coming into office as our 47th president, I'm really hopeful that something can happen and that we can calm this whole situation down. Because the last thing I want is a hypersonic nuclear missile coming straight for our country. Because I don't know if you guys know, but Russia has hypersonic technology.
A Russian hypersonic missile has been successfully test-launched from a MiG-31 jet. It took off from an airfield in southwest Russia. The Kinzhal missile is said to travel at 10 times the speed of sound and has a range of 2,000 kilometers.
Technology that we in the United States don't really have yet. Are we working on some things? Yeah. Do we have the potential of developing hypersonic missiles? Of course. Might we have something that we don't know? Definitely. But one thing that I do know for sure is that Russia has the capability of shooting a hypersonic missile into the United States that we would not be able to stop. We don't have an Iron Dome system capable of taking out hypersonic missiles. So this false sense of security that we have here in the United States, that our enemies are not emboldened enough to come and attack us here, is dangerous and scary, and it should frighten us all. The rhetoric that our current administration is using, such as the past where Kamala was saying, oh yeah, Ukraine should be a part of NATO and they should be able to pick whoever they want, is very dangerous. The fact that we're allowing Ukraine to use our weapons inside Russian territory is very dangerous. So why am I saying all this? I'm nobody. You don't know me. I don't know you. I don't know who's on the other side of the screen. Why am I saying this? There's already a lot of people talking about it. What's the difference between me and them? Well, the difference is I know how serious it is. I have been in those briefing rooms and know that any small move, any small thing that is misunderstood is going to lead to a broader conflict. We must tread carefully. It's a very delicate balance, where we support Ukraine for their needs and avoid actions that could lead us into a world war. And yes, we should maybe assist them, how we've been doing with some weapons, to maybe allow them to fight for their own sovereignty. But for us to go ahead and give them such a bold, go ahead and send it is dangerous.
Long-range missiles are going to be applied from Ukraine into Russian territory. It will also mean that they are operated by American experts, military experts. And we will be taking this as a qualitatively new phase of the Western war against Russia, and we'll react accordingly. As regards Trump's position on Ukraine, I cannot guess. He said that he is a president of peace, not the president of war. Politicians in particular, who declare that they prefer peace to war, deserve support, I think, in general.
One thing that COVID taught me and taught a lot of us is that we depend on other countries for everything that we have. If World War III breaks out, we're not the same as we were back in the 40s. Our country was a lot more self-sustaining back then. There was a lot more manufacturing and production here in the United States. It's not the same anymore. We depend a lot on China. We depend a lot on these other foreign countries to be able to sustain ourselves. And if World War III breaks out, if you think toilet paper was a problem, like COVID, you have no idea. Because a lot of our meat, a lot of our grains, a lot of produce, food, whatever the case may be, our products, drugs, come from China.
And China is a big ally of Russia.
And if Russia says, hey, stop all shipments, they're going to stop all shipments. So I'm asking you guys to, in a way, use this as a time to prepare yourself, because we never know. But also, definitely voice yourself on social media. Social media is such a powerful, powerful tool, that we have basically a direct contact from our phone to be able to communicate with, let's say, post a tweet on President Trump's X account or Elon Musk's account and suggest that as this new administration takes power, that we de-escalate this situation, that we can bring something to the table and stop the potential of World War III. I mean, that's the hope. That would be everyone's hope, I'd imagine. Again, I appreciate everything. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I'm going to bring more content. Follow my other social media accounts and check out my other videos. And yeah, hey guys, I appreciate it. Jesus Barone, Let Him Bacon Podcast. Take care.